Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and today we're going to do a very probably short episode, but it's hailing out of Spain today. So let's just kind of jump right into it, shall we? Alfredo Gayan Sotillo, again, sorry, names are hard, was born on April 5th, 1978, in Porto Ayano, Spain. His mother died when he was young, and his father worked hard to support Alfredo and his siblings. Alfredo's grandmother ended up stepping in to help raise the children, but even with a grandmother figure, Alfredo was noted to be an introvert. If you ask many of his teachers, they would say that he was pretty unremarkable. Still, he did well in school. He even managed to become high school president at Bachillerato Unificado Polivalente in September 1998. After graduating and taking a few years off, the then 20-year-old Alfredo decided to join the army and became a corporal in the parachute regiment of Alcala de Henares, which ended up taking him to Bosnia twice as part of humanitarian missions. And in some reports, I saw that the reason that he actually joined the military was because he had a passion or interest in firearms. Others simply said that, he wanted to join the military. There in Bosnia, he reported that he witnessed some terrible atrocities, but also that he and his unit would have downtime and they would use that to go out and have fun, even if that fun included theft. The unit ended up returning in 2003 after the prestigious oil spill in Galicia in order to help the cleaning efforts. Here again, there's a couple reports that say that because Alfredo had been 2 years in Bosnia or done 2 missions, that he was allowed to go on leave and he didn't actually have to be part of this oil spill cleanup, but that he opted to go ahead and join it. So he went ahead and took part in the cleaning efforts. And then there's reports that say because he was part of the cleaning efforts, he actually had this very downtrodden look on life because of what was happening. But again, those are just a few sources within the multiple sources that I've read. When he returned to Spain, again, so the sentiment of partying and doing things and having fun didn't leave Alfredo. He actually ended up stealing a car at one point, and in order to do that, he pulled a woman from it and, of course, was caught pretty immediately and was sent to Gomez Ula Military Hospital in Madrid, where he ended up being diagnosed with neurosis and anxiety. He was prescribed medication and told not to drink, but he continued to drink heavily at this time and ended up with many disciplinary issues within the military and their ranks. And obviously, because of this, he wasn't compatible to keep going, so he was released from service. In 2003, he pretty much immediately started a new job working as a security guard in Madrid Barajas Airport. And now let's get into kind of why we're talking about him. So, on January 24th, 2003, Juan Francisco Ledesma, a 50-year-old man, was shot in the head in front of his 2-year-old son by Alfredo. Alfredo purportedly walked up to the man, greeted him, and then told him to get on his knees. Once Juan was on his knees, Alfredo shot him in the back of the head. The bullet ended up exiting through the right eye, killing him. On February 5th, Juan Carlos Martin Estacio, a 28-year-old airport cleaner, was shot in the head. He was found with an ace of cups playing card nearby, and the media really picked up on this. Juan was standing at a bus stop when Alfredo approached him, again forcing the man to his knees, then shot him in the back of the head. On the same day, Alfredo traveled to Alcala de Henares, but his crimes didn't pause there. Instead, Alfredo went to a bar, Bar Rojas, where he shot the owner, Teresa Sanchez Garcia, who survived despite being shot multiple times. Unfortunately, Alfredo killed her son, 18-year-old Miquel Jimenez Sanchez, by shooting him in the temporal area on the right side. The bullet went out the left side and actually embedded into his shoulder. One of the customers, 57-year-old Juana Dolores Uceles, was next. She was shot above the right eye. She also passed away from this. On March 7th, 2003, Santiago Eduardo Sales, a 27-year-old, was shot in the face, but he survived. Santiago's friend, Anahid Castillo Ruperte, a 29-year-old, managed to escape the ordeal unharmed. Here, a Three of Cups playing card was left at the scene. On March 18th, a Romanian couple, George and Diona Magda, were walking down a dark alleyway or passageway when unfortunately they stumbled across Alfredo. He shot George in the back. Diona put up her hands in self-defense. She was basically laying on the ground, and still, he stood over her and shot her 3 times. She was transported to the hospital, but unfortunately succumbed to her injuries 2 days later. On July 3rd, Alfredo got drunk and, in his stupor, walked in to the local police station and surrendered, confessing to being what the media had dubbed the playing card killer, to which he stated he never intended for that to be his signature. He had simply dropped a card at the second murder, and the media took hold of it and sensationalized it, and so he decided to keep using it. He also stated that he killed his victims with a Takarev TT-33 that he smuggled in from Bosnia under a TV upon his return to Spain during his military service, things that were never released to the media. Once Alfredo sobered up, though, he immediately began recanting his statements. But again, he had given details only the killer would have known. As a result, he stayed incarcerated, where Alfredo continued to change his story on numerous occasions. By September 10th, he stated he only confessed because a neo-Nazi group had threatened to kill his sister if he didn't take the blame for the killings. That it was true that he smuggled a gun in, but he had sold it prior to any of the murders. Of course, he said he had sold it to said neo-Nazi group that was then threatening him. But again, while he was confessing, police were completing their investigation. They weren't just sitting still. So this included going over to Alfredo's family home. There, they found a cartridge from the gunshot that killed one of the victims and clothes from multiple murders. Police also requested assistance from the victims that had lived. They were there to identify their attacker, and all of them identified Alfredo Sotillo. Alfredo ended up charged with 6 murders and 3 attempted murders. After he was convicted, the tribunal stated, quote, "The tribunal accorded to take expected sentences to the limits due to evident disdain for human life exposed by the accused. At any rate, and according to the Spanish law, the deck of cards murderer will not serve more than 25 years in prison." To condemn Alfredo Gallan, the sentence first starts recognizing probative value of confession made by the accused after giving himself up to Puertollano's local police on July 3rd, 2003. He later recognized the facts in front of examining judge, but denied them when declared in Number 10 Magistrate Court of Madrid. He only admitted buying the gun and illegally introducing it in Spain. The weapon was found in his parents' home. Despite that, he claimed to have sold it to someone he knew on January 2003. According to ballistics, projectiles did derive from the aforesaid gun. Court considered these facts and confession of accused incriminate the prisoner. Furthermore, judges considered Gallan's silence as reaffirmation of his culpability. sentence does not claim any type of psychiatric pathology in Alfredo Gayan and exempts the state of public liability. The court based the exemption of the state in the fact that the crimes weren't committed in an establishment of state ownership and that the weapon used wasn't the official nor the murders were perpetrated while he was in charge, just as the law requires. According to the sentence, Gayan will have to compensate the families of the victims, including those who survived, with a total of €609.182 for moral damages and injuries. During the trial, a policeman said that Gayan always wished his victims a good morning and asked them to please kneel before shooting them because education is the first thing in life. End quote. And hopefully that translates well, but that comes from a Spanish speaking, and then it was translated into English. So I apologize if that's not quite what they say, but that's what I could get from the translation. So on March 9th, 2005, Alfredo was sentenced to 142 years and 3 months in prison. But I did just have this gigantic quote, and with the information that I did quote above, he is eligible for parole after 25 years, meaning he will be up for release in 2028. Also, to be noted, since his time behind bars, Alfredo has changed his name to Ruben and he began writing. He even published a work of fiction in 2018. I did not look it up because, frankly, I don't care what a killer has to say about this. So, with that, Alfredo is still in bars for at least 2 more years, and then we'll see what comes of it, or if he will continue his 142-year sentence based on his actions. Hopefully, the state, not the state, hopefully they will decide that he is still a danger to public because he did say in his confessions, he basically just picked people at random. He didn't know any of them, and he just decided to walk up and shoot them and end their life for no good reason. So I can't imagine a person like that being able to be rehabilitated and re-enter society. But we'll see in 2 years. Until then, to all those out there listening, be careful. It really is a dangerous world we live in.